There was a time about 15 years ago where if you peeked inside the bags of many prominent PGA Tour players like Ricky Fowler, Anthony Kim, and several others, you would have found some Adams hybrids discreetly tucked underneath the head covers of the golf equipment companies that those players were being paid to endorse. They were wildly popular, and Adams also made lots of innovative and interesting woods and irons. They even got into the wedge market, and they also had putters as well. Well, Adams was purchased by TaylorMade Adidas Golf in 2012, and many of the technologies and features that were in those clubs slowly made their way into TaylorMade stuff. And over time, the Adams brand sort of faded into the background and really was forgotten by a lot of different people. However, now in May of 2023, Adams is back with a whole new rebranding, a new logo, new irons, and a brand new way of purchasing Adams equipment that I'm going to tell you about at the end of this video. So the obvious question is, who is Adams Golf actually going to be making this golf equipment for? Well, it's a pretty interesting answer. You see, lots of people have discovered since 2020 that golf is really fun. It's a great way to get outside, to hang out with friends. It's a way to get your competitive edge going. It's great. And those players who started playing golf and discovering the game during the COVID-19 pandemic and the years that followed, many of them actually borrowed clubs. They've talked to friends who maybe had some hand-me-down stuff. Maybe some of them bought some used golf equipment. Players like that are now ready to make their first meaningful purchase of golf equipment. They want some stuff that's going to look like the golf equipment for people who have been playing golf for years. They want to fit in with everybody else, but at the same time, they don't want to spend a ton of money. To be very clear, these new Adams golf clubs for 2023 are not going to be sold as box sets. You're not going to find these in big box retail stores or in warehouses next to a set of white walls and some cinnamon buns. You know, this is golf equipment that is meant to be played by people who are falling in love with the game. It's also golf equipment that is meant to be for people who remember Adams, for people who knew what the Adams brand meant and are coming back to the game of golf. They're rediscovering their love for the game. So let's talk about the clubs. And I'm going to begin with the driver. The driver is going to look very familiar to a lot of people because it has many of the features and benefits, many of the cosmetics of a lot of different golf clubs that are already out there. If you look down, you're going to see a very large carbon fiber crown. It's got a 460cc volume head. It has a titanium face. It has a titanium body. On the bottom of the club, you're going to see a large velocity slot, which is going to help to enlarge the sweet spot of the variable thickness face. You're also going to notice there's a carbon fiber panel that's going to be out in the toe section, as well as a precision draw weight that's going to be in the heel. That means that this club is going to have a draw bias because players who are still relatively inexperienced more often than not tend to slice the ball. So a little bit of draw bias is going to help them. But this golf club is going to look like a regular club. It is not going to be an offset driver that's going to stand out in a crowd. Now, when you move into the fairway woods as well as the hybrids, you're going to see many of the same technologies and features that were in the driver. There's going to be a large carbon fiber crowns on both the fairway woods and the hybrids. You're going to notice there's a very large velocity slot that's designed into the fairway woods and hybrids. Again, it enlarges the sweet spot. It's going to help to make the lower portion of the face a lot more active, which is going to be especially helpful for players when they're hitting off the deck because it's going to activate the lower portion of the hitting area. If you hit thin, it's going to give you a little bit more flex to try and get you a little bit more ball speed. You're not going to be penalized as much for hitting thin shot. Both of these clubs also have a draw precision weight in the heel, again, to help to create a little bit more of a draw bias. Now, whereas the driver had an adjustable hosel mechanism that allowed you to increase or decrease the stated loft by up to 2 degrees, these are going to have fixed bonded hosels. There's no adjustment that's been cooked into the Adams idea of fairways, woods, and hybrids. The Adams idea irons are going to look like a traditional game improvement club, and that's, again, by design. Golfers who are relatively new to the game, somebody who's coming back to the game, they don't want to stand out. They don't want to have golf equipment that looks like, hey, I'm a beginner. I just went ahead and bought something here. Look at me. This is an iron that's going to blend in. It's going to look very, very modern. It has a hollow body design that's going to help to make the face flex a little bit more efficiently at the moment of impact to give you more distance. It also has a very low center of gravity to help the ball get up in the air a lot more easily. The tri-sole design is going to help to work through the turf, so if you do hit the ball a little bit fat, making contact behind the ball in the ground rather than ball first, it's going to help to work through that turf and help you maintain speed through the hitting zone. There's not a tremendous amount of offset here. The top lines are a modern thickness. They're not razor thin, but again, these clubs are not made for the highest skilled players. The soles are also moderately thick. All in all, when a player looks down at this, they're going to be reassured that there is some technology here that's going to help them along the way. There's not so much max game improvement stuff cooked into this iron to make it really stand out in a crowd. When it comes to the wedges in the Adams idea set, this is where some real innovation has been cooked in. When you look down in the address position, you're going to see a relatively traditional looking wedge. Maybe it has a slightly higher toe than some wedges, but it's not, it wouldn't stand out as a high toe wedge. However, when you flip the club over, you're going to notice that there's a very large undercut cavity behind the leading edge. That removes a tremendous amount of weight, which is then put around the perimeter. It is a cavity back wedge. There's also extra mass that's been positioned high up here in the toe area. That's going to help to elevate the center of gravity position, and that's going to help players try and drive their wedge shots a little bit more piercingly. It's going to create a little bit lower ball flight. They're offered in two different lofts with 54 and 58 only. You're not going to have a full gamut of wedge lofts available in the Adams Idea set. But again, this player really isn't looking for that. This is something simple. It's fairly basic, but I'll tell you what's not basic is going to be the sole configuration here. It's a pretty aggressive C grind with a lot of material removed from both the heel and the toe area here. This golf club is going to be something that will grow, I think, with a lot of different players. You can certainly play it from a square position, but as a player gets more and more comfortable around the greens and wants to open up the golf club to be able to expose a little bit more loft, to be able to work some shots and have some variety, completing the new offerings, Adams has also brought out a pair of putters that for a lot of people who've been playing golf for a while are going to look very, very familiar. The Adams C Groove Prospect and Madison. Both of these putters are made out of 303 stainless steel, but the real story when you look down is going to be the addition of the C Groove face. This is something that was a classic back about 10, 15, 20 years ago. Many players love the way that those grooved faces made the ball roll a little bit more consistently, soaked up a little bit of the vibration, and it helped to improve performance, give a little more consistency on the greens. Again, these are going to be putters that have a very traditional look. We've all seen classic answer style blades like this fang style mallet that's relatively compact. The Prospect is going to have a little bit of toe hang, so it should help to reward players that have a slightly arc stroke. The Madison, on the other hand, has a single bend shaft, and as you can see, this is a face balanced offering, so players that have a slightly more straight back, straight through stroke will probably be rewarded by this one. Now, I've been telling people for years that it really is important to get custom fit, but you have to, again, think about who Adams is going to be really targeting with this type of product. Many people just simply like to buy things online. They are used to going to sites like Amazon and simply making their purchases and then expecting things to be able to get returned. That isn't traditionally the way that it works with golf equipment. However, it will with this. Each of the Adams golf clubs is going to be sold with a 60-day money-back guarantee. So if you go out and try a new driver or fairway wood or some of the putters and find that they don't work for you, you're going to be able to return it within 2 months. If you find that you bought a driver that has a stiff shaft, but you want to go down to a regular flex shaft, you'll be able to return it and get the new shaft brought in. Now, keeping in mind the type of golfers that Adams is targeting with the new Idea line, they were very aware of pricing, and the pricing is actually pretty interesting. The Adams Idea drivers are going to go for $299. The fairway woods are going to be $199. The hybrids, $179. You're going to be able to get a 7-iron set in steel for $599. There's also going to be a graphite shaft option that's going to go for $699. These are not really outrageous prices. This is going to be something that's going to be very affordable for a lot of people who are looking to make that meaningful investment. It's not cheap, but it's also far from being as expensive as a lot of modern golf clubs that are out there. So for people who, again, are looking to make their first meaningful investment into the game of golf, the Adams Idea line is going to be about as budget-friendly as you're going to find. So if you're a person who's new to the game, you're looking to make your first meaningful investment in the game of golf, or you're somebody who's coming back to golf, you remember the Adams products and you're curious, you might want to head over to adamsgolf.com and learn a little bit more.